green arrow watches over the city, protecting trains and keeping a weary eye out for villainy.
You are here to sit.
Hi, I'm Joshua Kemble, and this is vlog number 67. This is the vlog where I talk about quarterly stories, which is my graphic novel that I handwrite, hand letter, and hand ink, and then hand to you, hopefully someday in print. But until that day, it's available serialized online for your reading enjoyment at quarterlystories.com. It's a very personal story to me about faith and mental illness. And this is the vlog where I talk about the process and the progress of creating said graphic novel on top of being a full-time father, a full-time art director, and a full-time husband. So, hoping to head home and work on hand lettering, page 48, and ruling out the panel borders. So that's usually one of the first things I'll do, but it's going to be a pretty complicated task because I'm also hoping to do some other crazy amounts of work. One of the key things that I really need to get done is my taxes. And tax time for a lot of people within my income bracket is usually a pretty positive time. It means you're going to get some returns. You're going to get some money back, and so a lot of people in my income bracket are pretty excited around tax time because, they're going to get a nice fat check from the government because, they overpaid or whatever, and so they'll get a nice tax return at the end of the year. That is not the case for those of us who do freelance. If you're a contractor, taxes are not usually auto-deducted from your check. Instead, you have to pay quarterly estimates of your earnings, which becomes kind of complicated when you're a contractor because your earnings vary all throughout the year. So a good practice to get into if you're just starting to freelance, like if you're a listener to this vlog and you haven't done a lot of commercial artwork for money, when you first get those gigs, like that first client that's willing to pay you for your art, save a good chunk of your money because part of it needs to go to taxes, and at the end of the year you have to pay those taxes, and you generally are going to want to pay those taxes because otherwise you might get audited, and if you defraud the government and don't pay your taxes, you're going to have a really hard time come tax season when you get audited. Another good thing to keep in mind when you're a freelance employee is, not only do you want to save a good percentage of what you're making to pay taxes, you also are going to want to keep receipts of any expense that you've made that's related to art or graphic design. And you don't want to BS these expenses, but you do want to actually mark down business expenses. Like, meaning, did you have to buy markers or inks or illustration supplies or Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator, or pay for, work on your computer, or pay for part of your rent? That's the portion of your house or apartment that you use for freelance. This is the weirdest person in the world behind me. So the freeway's merging, and yet they weren't letting me merge. Very fascinating. You want to keep all of that, receipts of all of that, because a lot of it is potential write-off. And another thing I would highly recommend is become friends with an accountant or find a really reliable accountant. And a good way to find a good accountant is just to ask around to other freelancers. Specifically in graphic design and illustration, there are some accountants that are really good and know how to do it and know how to work with contractors. There are also some accountants that are used to being paid way too much to help people fill out a basic 1040 easy, and in those cases, that's not the accountant you want. You want an accountant who can help you out and help you to pay your taxes properly so that if you ever get audited, you're in the clear. Totally boring stuff, but it's about taxes. Point I was getting to is, for those of us who do contract work, tax season is not so great. It's usually not a really good news. And for most of my friends and myself included, generally, I'll forget to pay my yearly estimates, and then every April comes just like a hammer with, an amount of money that's pretty large that I'll owe the government. And so this year, because I took on less freelance, I'm really hoping that balances out and that we won't owe a lot. But the point being, doing taxes is a nightmare every year around this time. It's a complete nightmare. And I'm really hoping this year it's not. But it seems like every year it manages to surprise us. And maybe that's because my wife and I are artists. We're not like financial people. So for us, when we find out if we owe, it's pretty scary. So anyhow, point being, I'm not looking forward to it, but it is something I need to get done because I don't want to put it off to like April and then have this like sudden surprise amount of money that I owe. Crazy stuff about taxes, kind of boring, but at the same time it's really important to think about if you are a young artist who hasn't done a lot of work for people professionally or is just starting to earn an income as a contractor on their own. It's good to know that like a good chunk of that income needs to go to Uncle Sam. And this is only applicable if you're in the US. Obviously, you don't have to pay taxes to our government if you don't live in the US. So I'm heading home, and I'm just really hoping to keep the energy to do this page. And I also need to add the music to vlog number 66. So an interesting thing that happens is sometimes when I'm recording these videos, I'm actually like a few vlogs in. And I already edited vlog 66, and that is literally sitting at my house, completely edited, and I'll, when I get home, take a second look at it, make sure I'm not completely insane, and that it's pretty decent, and then mix music into it. Because I tend to find that these things, if they're just talking and there's no music or sound, they tend to be not so exciting. Whereas like just having a subtle amount of music in the vlog, I think helps them be more entertaining. But I don't know, you guys let me know if you care if there's music or not on them. That adds a little bit of time to the editing process. So that's another goal for tonight as well. Coming up on Wednesday, I'm also planning on going to see the Cloud Nothings, which is a band I really dig. I'm going to go with my friend Josh, the guy I play music with, that you've seen kind of on this vlog, although he's a little camera shy, so generally when I film our music playing, it'll be focused more on me, because, a little camera shy. But anyhow, point being, I'm probably going to head up and see the Cloud Nothings with him, and that'll be interesting too, but we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, I got to get through traffic, get home, and then hopefully work on this stuff. Oh yeah, and hang out with my wife and kid. So I feel like I've had a pretty successful day so far. Everybody's asleep. It's like 10:30, which isn't too bad. And I managed to post up my vlog 66. So I did the editing that I wanted to do, and then I actually printed my photo references. And then I also did the third thing that I was hoping to do, which was rule out the panel borders and do the hand lettering. As for taxes, I'm probably gonna put those off for this next weekend. So let me show you the page, and so that I can get to that. Okay, so here's the page. It's a 9-panel grid, and this is going to be the crumpled up piece of paper ripped. I'll probably work on the rips a little more, but that'll have the image rips at the bottom, and so that is a hand lettered page. Pretty happy with the lettering. The thing I like about hand lettering, it ends up with these little areas that are kind of incongruous, like they don't really fit together, so I like that a lot. So, yeah. So there we go. It's a good start to page 48 and one step closer to my goal. So there you go. There was my hand lettered page for page 48. And thanks for those of you who comment, like, subscribe, and share this channel. It really keeps it going. And especially the subscription, it really helps. So if you like what you've been seeing and you want to see a little bit more, hit the subscription box. I also totally listen to you guys on your comments of being interested in a cleaning up your inks tutorial, so I will probably show that whenever I can get to it, whenever I get to that point of inking this page. So it might be a couple of vlogs away, but it's definitely on the dock for something that I'd like to show since you guys are interested. All right, I'll see you guys next week. I'm going to go to bed.